sharing the screen.
Yeah.
Yes.
We are live.
Okay. Hi, good morning, everyone. Hello, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to today's session. We have with us today Dr. Ankit Dedia. He's an interventional cardiologist from Mumbai, and he has been, with COVID patients since the day one. He's been very hands-on, and he's attached to various hospitals in Mumbai like Holy Family, Hinduja, and many more. So he's going to be guiding us through some really intense information, and any questions or anything, any queries you have related to today's topic, please feel free to drop them down in the Q&A box. We will address them towards the end of the session. So I think how many participants do we have? Should we start? Should we wait? What should we do?
We can start, Poorna. As of now, 125 people are listening to us.
Okay, great. Dr. Ankit, over to you. Can we have your video on, Doctor? So they can also see you.
I have shared my screen.
Okay.
It's good. It's good. Video and presentation both are visible to audience. Please start.
Okay.
Okay.
So hi Poorna and hi Amit and hi everyone. Good morning. This is Dr. Ankit Dedia, as she's already invited me, and I'm here in this pandemic to discuss a few things. And I'm mentioning the word discuss because this is a discussion more than a lecture, and I want it to be a discussion so that I can solve all your queries and doubts. Uh, we are in a pandemic situation, and since 2020 March, we've been struggling with this. So without wasting much time, we'll go ahead. So we all know that on March 11, 2020, WHO declared this pandemic, and we were struggling with severe illness and death. And it is more risky for elderly age group, that is more than 60 years plus, and people with other pre-existing health conditions where kidney, liver, lungs are involved. So, and because it's a contagious disease, I would say it can land up to another person. Like there's a person to person spread is quite aggressive. We are suffering with this pandemic not getting resolved so soon. So what is SARS-CoV-2? SARS-CoV-2 is a virus that we call as COVID-19 virus, and SARS stands for the severe acute respiratory distress syndrome, and it spreads easily from person to person, and little if any immunity in humans is seen in this. There is hardly any immunity against it. So how do you transmit it? I'm just going to brush through a few slides so that I just give you a background for people who have not got much idea about it. Of course, we'll attend to the questions at the end of the session. So transmission is more from person to person, mainly through coughing, sneezing, even while talking and breathing, someone can transmit it. And it is more spread by droplet infection, that is respiratory secretions. So a person sneezing or coughing is going to spread more than when you spread by talking or breathing. It is aerosol based, as a solid particle or liquid droplet suspended in the air. It is, of course, spread through contact, because touching something with SARS-CoV-2 virus on it and then touching your mouth, nose, or eyes can spread it again. Of course, it can transfer through fecal matter as well. So everyone is wondering, okay, my husband has got COVID, but I have not got COVID. My partner has got COVID. I don't have symptoms. So this is because there is an incubation period for it. The incubation period is the time between the exposure to a virus and the onset of symptoms. So suppose if your husband's got fever on day or on Monday, so you are expectant that you will get fever on Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday. So it does not happen that fast, but because of this incubation period with COVID-19, symptoms may show up to 2 to 14 days after exposure. So in case of some COVID contact, you may not have symptoms in the first 2 days and you lose your guard or you put your guard down, and you may have a symptom on the 10th day or on the 7th day. So it is very important that we understand that incubation period is very important. And in the first wave itself, it was around 7 to 10 days. But in the second wave that we see in India, it is almost up to 14 days after exposure. And CDC indicates that people are most contagious when they are most symptomatic. So again, in case of any person who's had COVID or has COVID symptoms but has not tested as yet, they are most vulnerable to spread, or I would say they are most infective when they have fever, when those first 2-3 days of their illness are most contagious. So they will spread on to other people in those first 2-3 days more so than they would spread later on. Several studies have shown people to be contagious before developing symptoms also. So there are papers, there are publications where patients would not have fever and they would have spread it to someone else. So what are the symptoms that we see from mild to severe? If you see, most common symptoms that include are fever, cough, and shortness of breath. But in the second variant that we are seeing in the second wave that we are seeing a lot of patients with body aches, headaches, stuffy nose, change in smell and loss in smell and taste. A lot of people are coming with diarrhea and nausea, vomiting, sore throat. So these are other few symptoms which can be. So my point is that many a times I get a call, okay, doctor, I've got fever for last 2 days, but my smell is intact, so I don't have COVID. So problem is the acceptance. We are looking for symptoms. One may not have 14 symptoms that I have mentioned here on the slide. You may have only one symptom. But in a pandemic, even if you have one symptom, you are prone or you are highly at risk for developing the pandemic infection. And that's why it is important and prudent for us to know these symptoms may come in short spurs or they may not come to you in total. You may get 1 or 2 symptoms. So many a times I get calls, doctor, my smell is intact. How do I have COVID? In COVID, the smell should go now. It's not like that. Smell or taste may go for some people. Some people may get cough. Some people might get fever. Some people may get only body ache and weakness. So there are patients who come to us with weakness and body ache, and on investigation, we find that they are COVID, maybe day 7 to 10, and then their oxygen start dropping. So again, severe symptoms, emergency warning signs for COVID. Most people will have mild symptoms and should recover at home. Very crucial. That's why I've highlighted it, and not to go to the hospital or emergency room. They don't need to go to the hospital immediately. When do you need emergent medical attention is when you're feeling difficulty in breathing, shortness of breath, persistent pain or pressure in the chest, there is heaviness in the chest, new confusion or inability to arouse, that you feel drowsy, you cannot wake up, or there are bluish color discoloration of your face or lips, that means your oxygen levels are low. Of course, nowadays with the pandemic staying with us for more than a year, most of us have oxygen meters at home. That helps us in finding out what is your oxygen level. A person who has both consistent signs and symptoms and risk factors. So when will you investigate, or what is a suspect case? A potential exposure within 14 days before the onset of symptoms. So you should try to trace a contact where you have met someone, or you've gone out of the house, you've met someone who turned out to be positive later on, or if you have symptoms like cough, fever, and shortness of breath. And what is a confirmed case? Yes, of course, we have a RT-PCR confirmed case, which would tell us that yes, you have got this infection. How long does SARS-CoV-2 survive outside of the body? It is not yet clear. As we all know, we are also learning a lot of things with these new variants, new waves coming to us, but it's not very clear on how long the coronavirus can live on surface. But yes, virus may persist on surfaces for a few hours up to several days. That is, few published articles have mentioned that it stays on surface for at least 2 days. Depending on the condition and the type of the surface, it is likely that it can be killed with a simple disinfectant like alcohol spray or something like that, which we are regularly using, the sanitizing sprays. So we should be sanitizing our surfaces quite frequently. So increased risk, which are the people who are at high risk for severe illness? Patients who are having underlying illnesses, who've got heart diseases like heart attack or heart pumping capacity is low, had previous bypass or stents inserted. People who have had previous lung issues like asthma or COPD, where they have been chronic smokers. Smokers are very highly affected. Diabetes is one a big illness which can cause severe illness of COVID and suppress immune systems. Patients who are having chronic kidney disease, chronic liver disease, they are at high risk for COVID infections and they can get severe COVID infections. So elderly have higher rates of severe illness for COVID-19. Children and younger adults have less severe illness and death. Because COVID-19 is new, there are a lot of scientific unknowns that we are coming across, such as an impact on the pregnant women and on the fetuses we don't know as yet. One would say, what is the difference between seasonal flu and COVID-19? Yes, COVID-19 has the potential to cause more deaths and hospitalizations. SARS-CoV is much more infectious and spreads faster than the seasonal flu. And if you see here, the case fatality rate with COVID-19 is almost 2%, whereas it compared to seasonal flu, that is the influenza virus, it was 0.1%. So we are 20 times more deadly virus is affecting us than this routine seasonal flu. And seasonal flu does not require treatment. And we've got vaccines for seasonal flu, but for COVID-19, as we all know, vaccines have started, but we don't know the potency of all. But yes, vaccines are helping in reducing the infection. So what can individuals do? Be informed and prepared. As we are preparing you, wear a mask, maintain social distancing of at least 6 feet, washing your hands frequently, use alcohol-based sanitizers, avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth, stay home when you're sick, cough or sneeze into a tissue or on your elbow, clean and disinfect frequently where you touch the objects like cell phones, your watch, your wallets. It's very important, and it's very important that we wash our hands properly. That is, these 5 steps we should follow while washing hands. Wet your hands with clean running water, turn off the tap, apply soap, use the soap adequate enough. Lather should be on your hands by rubbing them with the soap. Scrub your hands for at least 20 seconds. Rinse your hands well under clean running water, and drying your hands is important. Dry your hands using a clean towel or an air dry. This is again the same. It is important that we follow these, and it's important that we cover both your aspects of your hands, that is your prone and the supine aspects, and between your nails, between your fingers. It's very important that you cover all these parts of your hands, because hands are the one which spread the infection more after the breathing and the sneezing part. So you are going to touch a lot of things in the day-to-day practice, and scrubbing and hand rubbing and washing your hands is going to be a very important role. Of course, keeping key steps for preparing for and managing epidemics in the workplace. Like today, I'm talking to an office-going fraternity. That's why I put this slide additional to what it is. Preparing for the threat, implementing preventive measures, implementing the continuity of operating plans, and managing business recovery post-epidemic. So again, sanitizing, cleaning all the parts is very important. When you're working in an office, you should be at distance, avoid physical contact, shaking hands is should be avoided. Of course, this is an important slide. The don'ts of wearing a mask. As you can clearly see here, don't reuse a three-ply mask or a dirty or a damaged mask. Don't touch the mask while wearing it. You should always wear your mask by putting it behind your ears or putting it over your head. You should not touch your mask from front. Don't hang the mask on your neck or on your ears, or mostly as we see in Bombay, many people have masks on their chins. Don't leave your used mask within the reach of others. No one else should touch it. Don't wear a loose mask. It should be fitting well. You should always pinch your nose with your mask so that it is does not leave any spaces between your nose and the mask. Don't remove the mask to talk to someone. That is most important. Many a times in our OPDs, we see patients coming to me, they will remove their mask. Doctor साहब छाती में दर्द है. I will tell them again, please wear your mask. They'll wear it. Next, और क्या हो रहा है? डॉक्टर साहब सांस बहुत फूल रही है. This is the common practice that we are following. We are seeing this day in day out. The patient's alertness and removal of mask, the threshold to wear the mask is very low. Don't share your mask. Of course, we don't share our masks. That is obvious. And specifically methods to prevent COVID-19 in your workplace. Again, management, leadership, and employment participation, hazard identification and assessment, hazard prevention and control, risk communication, education and training is important, system evaluation and improvement, family preparedness, emergency operation procedures, and pandemic recovery procedures should be in place. So again, enable sick workers to stay home. Right now, we are doing work from home policy more or less in most of the offices, minimizing contact among workers and clients, discontinue non-essential travel, limit the number of staffs present for high potential exposure tasks, and training. So this is a kind of a training that we are having, that your office is having us talk to you all, discuss your problems. This is very important, that there are so many WhatsApp messages roaming around. There are so many advices being given, ke, ha, you do this, you do that, but we don't know whether which one is the correct one. So directly coming from a doctor or from us, it's important that we train you all on what is happening with COVID. So maintaining social distancing is again important. Mental health and stress, very important, because we are in a pandemic. We are here stuck with this pandemic for more than a year. We are seeing a lot of anxiety issues. A lot of people are stressed, financial stress, social stress, psychological stress, many a times physical stress, because there is no way that you can vent out. You cannot go out for a walk. You can't go to your gym. So you're gaining weight. So there are a lot of kinds of stress that we are seeing. Use of smartphone is more, but nowadays it is better if you can connect with someone for a video call. You will feel more happier when you connect with your family and friends. Keep comfortable, try to do something which you enjoy at home. Practice stress relief whenever you feel anxiety building up. Do some breathing exercises, do some stretching exercises, read a book or a novel, dig in the garden. Of course, in Bombay, we don't have gardens. Whatever works for you, maybe playing a small music piece or learning guitar online or something, or listening to music. That's it. Just plain listening to music. I get a lot of relief when I listen to music, my old songs. I love them. So avoid unhealthy behavior like excessive drinking. Nowadays, we see that a lot of people at home have started opening their bars because they are not allowed to go out. But then what happens is you have a bottle and you eventually land up drinking much more than what you would have drunk in a bar or a cafe. That will just increase your anxiety. So Drinking and smoking, I would say these both are unhealthy behaviors and we should avoid as much as possible. Uh, Keep looking forward. Yes, of course, we are looking forward and we are hoping that this pandemic resolves as early as possible. Uh, before I could ask questions to you, I would just like to clear out a few doubts. That's why I put this FAQs from my side. When should you get a swab test done? So it is important to know, as I earlier explained, what are the symptoms that you are looking forward when you've got fever or shortness of breath, or you're feeling chest discomfort or uneasiness. These are the symptoms when initially people were hesitant to do a swab test. Arey, BMC people will come and harass us. That was the first reason that we got, or first, I would say, hesitancy, a barrier for us as medicos or as healthcare workers. We used to get a lot of patients reluctant to do a swab test. This was more in the first wave when BMC would come, put a board on your building or your society. People had a lot of social taboo. Oh my God, what will they think? What will my neighbors think that I have tested positive? But it was difficult for us to explain that this is a pandemic. It's okay to get infected. You didn't do it on purpose. It is not like getting an HIV infection that you've done something wrong or something wrong has happened to you. We are in a pandemic. It's okay to get infected, but it's important and pertinent that we treat it properly. So getting a swab test, the taboo on getting a swab test should be out of your mind. You should be more free. If your doctors advise you to do a swab test, do it. Don't be hesitant to it. So yes, when you get symptoms or when you have had a contact and you're suspecting, specifically in the elderly age group, when you've got parents in your house, when you've got grandparents in your house, and if you feel that you have been in contact with someone who has got positive COVID RT-PCR, or if you're feeling those symptoms, you're feeling weak, feverish, I would say getting a swab test is going to help you rather than giving you more problems. So don't hesitate to do a swab test. Many a times I get questions that I just had fever for 1 day. Do I still get myself tested? That's what I say. So fever, we have a wrong notion with us that fever should stay for 14 days. No, fever will not stay for 14 days. None of the symptoms in mild COVID will stay for that long. If you don't treat this infection, it is going to get self-resolved. That is agreeable. But many a times patients may progress in the second week into major illnesses where lung infection can progress further. Oxygens may drop in the second week beyond 7 days. So it is very important for us that we get tested. Symptoms, I had some running nose and 1 day fever. It was just normal flu, change of time, change of place, change of weather. I had ice cream the other day. That's why I got fever. I drank a cold glass of buttermilk. That's why I had fever. These are the routine doubts and queries that we get. And I always keep telling my patients that drinking a glass of cold buttermilk is not going to cause you a fever. Never. So if you are in a doubt, yes, we should do a test. Because we are in a pandemic, your first rule is until and unless proven otherwise, you are having an infection of the pandemic ongoing. So if you have fever, we have to prove that you are not infected with COVID until and unless proven. If you don't prove it, you have got COVID. So fever, cough, breathing issues, worst thing you should do is do a swab test. Next question that I get is, I have got COVID positive, doctor. They call me frantically in chaos. Everyone's wondering, oxygen hai ki nahi, bed hai ki nahi, ICU hai ki nahi. Everyone is in a chaotic situation. But at this time, in pandemic, we should not panic. First thing is take medical attention, get in touch with your doctor, with your family doctor or a COVID specialist. Tell them that you are COVID positive. Explain to them what are your symptoms. He or she may tell you to do some tests. And then we take it further. If your doctor feels you should get hospitalized, he will automatically tell you rather than you panicking. There are so many patients of mine who, without informing the doctor, of just first day of your swab test positive result, without any further damaging symptoms, ran to the hospital, got themselves an ICU bed and got stuck there for 5-7 days, not coming back home. And you are occupying a bed in the pandemic. We have to see for others also. If you are having COVID, most of 90% of our patients are being managed at home very well. As I said earlier also, this virus is going to get self-resolved if you don't do treatment also. But we have to do treatment so that it does not progress into a bad illness. So I would say that hospitalizing, yes, is important, but the decision should always be taken by a doctor or a health professional rather than patients themselves deciding. My favorite and the talk of the town or talk of the country is the vaccine. Is a vaccine a must? So taking a vaccine does not make you immortal. This is again, I would say, a lot of people think that I have taken 2 vaccines, so I don't need to wear a mask. I have taken 2 vaccines, I can travel the world wherever I want. These are the misconceptions or norms that they are making into their lives, which I would say are totally wrong. Vaccine is a must. My father had got 2 vaccines, Covishield, first in the first week of March, first week of Feb, and the second one in the first week of April. And he got COVID in second week of April, that is 13th of April, he got COVID. But he's 70 plus, he's diabetic, but because he took 2 vaccines, he did not land up in the hospital. We could manage him at home. He was asymptomatic. His CT value was more than 28. It was 31. So he had not given it to anyone else and he was stable at home. So taking a vaccine does not mean that you will not get COVID. That is a wrong conception that we follow. It's a completely wrong. People are arguing with others saying that why should I take a vaccine if it's not going to protect me from an infection? No, that is a wrong conception. Vaccine is going to protect you from a lethal COVID infection. You have to understand the word lethal here. Vaccine is going to prevent you from a catastrophic fatal outcome, which is important again. I don't want any of my patients to die of COVID. Yes, that is the only purpose the vaccine is going to serve. You may not get infection, that is a bonus to it. But after taking a vaccine, can you get infected with COVID? Yes, you can get infected with COVID. But you may not have severe COVID. That is what we are trying to protect you from by giving you a vaccine. So this concept of मुझे वैक्सीन मिलने के बाद कोविड कैसे हो सकता है is a wrong concept. You can get COVID. If you are not adequately taking preventive measures, you may get COVID. So again, taking a vaccine is a must. Vaccine, again, which one should I take? Covishield or Covaxin? Both the vaccines are good, but we've got more data with Covishield. I, as a cardiologist, am more comfortable with Covishield because Covaxin has got lesser data on the side effect profile. So yes, Covishield, if taken, is better. Covishield may protect you slightly lesser than Covaxin, but Covishield has given us more data, robust data on the side effect profiles, the adverse effects profile, and it is that way safer vaccine among the two. But yes, Covaxin is also a good option if you are not getting Covishield, if your company is providing Covaxin. Taking a vaccine is important right now. Both the vaccines are safe that way. No fatal outcomes have been seen with both these vaccines. But yes, data wise, Covishield has given us more data. We have got lesser data with Covaxin. Very important question is, do I stop these blood thinners? Do I stop my cholesterol pills? Do I stop my blood pressure pills before taking vaccine? No, you don't stop any pills before taking a vaccine. You please continue all your medicines that you were taking regularly. Another question is, do I take Combiflam or Crocin thrice a day after taking a vaccine? No, you don't need to take any of these medicines. In case of fever, in case of body ache, yes, you may take a Crocin or a paracetamol or a Dolo, but you don't need to take it as a regular routine pill for 3 to 4 days. It is not indicated. Side effects of vaccine, yes, people are discussing. A lot of WhatsApp messages are roaming around that patients are forming clots, patients are not doing fine after vaccine. There's a death after vaccine. Patients are landing up with a COVID infection after the vaccine. So I just want to tell you all that both the vaccines are not having the live virus. Firstly, part of the virus, and that too, that part of the virus which cannot replicate. It is important. This is science. Please understand this. The part of the vaccine, the part of the virus that you are being injected with in the vaccine cannot replicate. So it cannot form more copies of the virus in your body after the injection. Please keep this in mind. So getting an infection after the vaccine is not possible because of the vaccine. Vaccine is not giving you any infection. It is there to give you antibodies against this virus. We are trying to form antibodies with this vaccine so that when in case in future if you get a virus infection, these antibodies may help to fight it out and you may not get any infection only. But this vaccine cannot cause replication or increase in the virus in your body. This concept has to be clear among all of us. Please understand this. Who is a carrier? So again, this is very important. Many of us in this forum right now or in this session who are attending must have taken 1 dose or 2 doses. I have taken 2 doses of the vaccine. I was a healthcare worker, frontliner. I got it in the month of January and in March that time itself. And I can be a carrier. I may not be able to get the infection. After vaccination, also you can be a carrier. So people who are vaccinated roaming on the roads, no, I've got 2 vaccines taken. I don't get the infection. Chances of me getting infections are lesser. Yes, your chances of getting the infection may be lesser, but your chances of being a carrier are same as that what you were before taking the vaccine. So it is very clear you can be a carrier, you can take the infection, you may do a work of a bag. Carrier is a bag. You can take the baggage, you can get the virus from outside on the road, keep it with you, touch somewhere and get it to your house and can affect others in your house. In the second wave, we are seeing a lot of kids getting infection. It is expected that in the third wave, more kids are going to get affected because the virus is changing its strain. The first virus was not affecting the kids much because probably the routine vaccines that we are giving for flu and all was protecting them. But now we are seeing that the second wave and probably in the third wave, the virus has changed its strain and it may affect the kids also. So you can be a carrier for the people you are staying with, and be careful. Carrier may be, you may not get the infection, and even for those who don't have not taken the vaccine, you can always be a carrier and give it to someone else. If your immunity is good, you may not get the infection, but you can pass it on to someone else. I had already had COVID in the past. Can I get it again? Most important question, and we are seeing this again and again, that can I have a repeat infection? Yes, you can get infected with a new strain. You can get infected with the same strain once your antibody titers go down. So remember one thing, nothing is permanent. That is important for you all to understand. Nothing is permanent. If you have taken a COVID infection in the past, if you've been infected with COVID once, there are so many people who tell us कि मुझे एक बार होके गया, अब मुझे थोड़ी दूसरी बार होगा. No, that is again a wrong concept. Once had COVID can have COVID again with a new variant, sometimes with the same variant, because your antibodies have worn out. you can get the COVID again. Can I plan a pregnancy? So again, yes, you can plan a pregnancy regarding being pregnant, or a female patients can plan a pregnancy while in the pandemic. Yes, you can. There is no data, or uh, there is no published article saying that during pregnancy the fetus is at more risk. We have seen so many patients, mothers who have had uh, who've had a pregnancy and had done their COVID test, and they turned out to be positive, and the fetus on birth is negative. We had to isolate them, and we've been managing the patients in such way. But sometimes what happens is there are no ill effects of COVID seen in the fetus as yet. So that is one good thing that we've seen. But yes, planning a pregnancy, you have to be more careful because of hospital beds, and because of availability of hospital beds is an issue, and this has to be kept in mind always. Am I visible properly, Amit?
Yes, doctor, you are.
Yeah. So again, just brushing through the take-home messages specifically for our forum today. Wash hands. Yes, it's very important that you wash hands regularly, 20 to 25 seconds every now and then, because this is one practice which will never fail you. It is always going to help you. Sorry, just a minute. There's some issue with my. Yeah. Always keep washing hands, wearing a mask properly, not touching your mask every now and then is important. Keep common surfaces such as telephone, keyboards clean. So office going people should keep all your table, your desktop, keep less things on your desktop. Don't keep 10 pens fidgeting with them every day. Keep one single pen. Keep only the essential stuff that you need for your office work. Of course, we are working from home. Sorry?
Doctor,
Sorry?
using you.
Am I audible now?
You are audible, Ankit, but Puna, you are not audible.
Yeah. Avoid sharing equipments if possible. Again, it is important in office when we are handling files from one place to the other. When we are handling documents, it's important that you sanitize your hands, then take the documents, sanitize your hands, then you give the documents, because we don't know who's carrying what virus. It's important. Minimize group meetings by using phone, emails, video conferencing. Avoid close contact when meetings are necessary. Consider telework. As we said, we should try to work as much as possible online. Limit unnecessary visitors at your office place, at workplace, and maintain your physical, emotional health with rest, diet, exercise, and relaxation. It's important that you have a good time at home. It's important that you have positive energy at home because of pandemic being there with us for more than a year. Many a times we see that people are depressed. We are seeing a lot of psychiatric illnesses in these last 1 year or 15 months or so. So I just hope that physical exercise, yoga is very important. It helps you get positive. It helps you improve your lungs. It helps you being fit. So yoga is my best advice, or my favorite advice to give to people is yoga, doing yoga at home. Because it's does not have any maintenance. You don't have to buy anything. It's just a mat. It's easily available. You can do it at any place. You can do it at your home. You can do it in your bedroom, in your hall. If you've got a terrace, you can do it anywhere. It helps your lungs because COVID-19 is affecting the lungs. Your breathing improves a lot. It calms you down. It brings your heart rate down. it makes you physically and mentally fit. So it's very important that we do yoga and exercise and relaxation. Thank you for your attention, and I'm always here to answer all your questions. If there are any, please come ahead.
Yes, doctor, there are quite a few questions that have come up. Some of them are pretty repetitive, mostly
Yeah,
about the vaccine.
yeah.
So let me
So
start taking them.
is my screen off
Uh,
now?
yes, your PPT is off. Yes.
Okay, okay.
Uh, so if I am taking a blood thinner every day,
Yeah.
aspirin 75 mg advised by my ophthalmologist,
Hmm.
to take due to damage of optic nerve a year back, and one tablet of Met Excel 25 mg BP tablet.
Hmm.
Is it safe to take a vaccine?
Yes, I have already mentioned it, but I'll again answer that. All your existing medicines need to be continued for any kind of vaccine, whether you take Covishield or Covaxin. You cannot stop any medicine. You cannot, you should not stop any medicine. Vaccine is not a contraindication for any of your previous ongoing medicines. Please understand, whether it's heart, blood pressure, diabetes, for ophthal purpose, or for kidney, liver, anything on the earth, don't stop any medicines. Just continue all your medicines. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, in the current scenario, some say don't listen to news as it's horrifying, but on the other side, we have to be on top of the updates like government policies, what to avoid, etc. What should we do in this case?
So it's a very difficult question to answer, but I would say update. See, there are people who are constantly watching news, constantly on WhatsApp, and I'm telling you, sometimes we feel WhatsApp is a boon, but I'm telling you, WhatsApp is a disaster in some occasions. We get so many things, so many unwanted stuff on WhatsApp circulating, and it's very disheartening. Even in the news, they are very repetitive. The news channels are repetitive. They keep, and they never give you the full picture. They will just highlight one picture which is going to increase their TRP. So I would again say, you should be wise enough to not get affected by the news. At the same time, you should be aware of what's going on. It should be a blend of both. You should be wise or smart enough to not get yourself affected by it. You should be positive enough. Yes, someone knowing that is Mumbai having adequate oxygen supply? Today I got 3 messages from different patients. Okay, doctor, is there any shortage of oxygen in our city? So I asked them, do you have any COVID patients in your house? So they said, no, no, doctor, we don't have. So this is what I was trying to tell you, that you have got affected by something which should not affect you as yet. Is something this news channel is creating. So news channels create a lot of panic. Now, Bombay does not have any oxygen shortage. Let me be very clear. If anyone has this doubt, there are many people who bought oxygen concentrators at home in Bombay, thinking the third wave will come and Bombay oxygen supply is going to go off. Let me tell you, we got 135 plants of oxygen in Bombay alone. 135, that's like a mammoth number of plants. We are very well prepared for a catastrophic oxygen shortage. But yes, again, being aware of something and extrapolating that information in your personal life is two different things. So this is one example that I gave, that oxygen shortage is there in Delhi, it is there in north, it is there in south. We are blessed in Bombay, it is not that much. But again, that does not mean that you go and buy an oxygen concentrator. If you don't have a patient in the house, you should not buy an oxygen concentrator as yet, because people are making money out of it. And if needed, yes, I would say you can buy. But this information from WhatsApp or from the news channels, you have to take it with a pinch of salt.
Okay, doctor, thank you so much for clearing that. Um, I was infected with COVID last year, August. Are my antibodies still exist? Yeah, does the antibody still exist?
So again, this, I purposely didn't put this in my slide. I had this in mind. In fact, partly I answered this question. but the validity of your antibodies is not fixed. So again, uh, if you had COVID last year, your antibodies will not last for this long. 1 year is too much. So antibodies are generally seen in your body for a period of 45 days to 90 days. That is 1.5 to 3 months. After 3 months, those antibodies which you had formed because of your infection will get washed off, and you may not have any antibodies. So you're not protected for the next infection. So, but this is a bookish number. Some patients may have antibodies for a longer period of time. I'm giving you the average number of time, that is 45 days to 90 days is the protection routinely seen in our patients who got affected with COVID virus, and so on and so forth also in the vaccine population. So we are going to be protected for another 4 to 6 months after taking the 2 doses. After 6 months, we are expecting a booster dose to come in. And this has already been in the pipeline. A lot of studies have shown that we may have a booster dose coming up for Covishield and Covaxin in the near future, in maybe 6 or 8 months down the line after you finish your second dose. So vaccines are going to stay. Definitely, they're going to stay. And you need to be updated with your antibodies. So that's why after getting infection, still taking a vaccine is a must.
Thank you so much, doctor. That was some really good information. Okay, moving on. As per government guidelines, second dose of Covishield is to be taken within 56 days from first dose. Considering vaccine shortage currently, how about if it gets extended, and till how many days? So what can the maximum gap be? I'm assuming.
Oh my God. So this is a problem with us. We as a country have been exporting vaccine instead of giving it to our generations and in our population more. Unfortunately, we have shortage. In case you've exceeded 56 days, don't panic. You can always do an antibody titer. After the first dose, also your spike antibodies are high. As early as possible, you can take. There is no time limit given by us or by the guidelines. There are no time zones. Presently, the vaccine is available in Bombay, and it's the information is not very clear about which centers have it. It is not as streamlined as it was in the during the first 2 3 months. But yes, there are vaccines available in Bombay with a lot of chaos. You are getting it, but if possible, just take the second one. There is no time limit, or but it's earlier the better. 56 days is ideal. Generally, I advise between 7 and 8 weeks you should take it. In case you have missed because of the unavailability, try to go in a center which has the available vaccine and take it.
It is said that this time there is risk of viral fever. Would you clarify how we will know the symptoms are of viral fever or of COVID, because symptoms look nearly the same?
Yeah, so this also have answered earlier. Any virus fever or viral fever right now, we cannot distinguish between COVID and viral fever. Yes, there are a lot of people who had fever and coming COVID negative, but you will not come to know until and unless you do the test. So that's why doing the swab test kills the anxiety. Firstly, if you don't do the test, you will be continuously thinking, do I have COVID? Do I have viral? Do I have COVID? Do I have viral? So much so that you should do a COVID RT-PCR test, and it is not possible to distinguish based on the symptoms itself. So many a times we are seeing patients having 2-3 days fever. We are testing them for COVID on day 5, day 7, 2 COVID negative tests, and then we are declaring them that you don't have COVID. But patients go one step ahead without our advice, go and do their CT scans on the second day, third day, which CT scans are not going to pick up anything on the first 3-4 days. So doing a CT scan or a COVID RT-PCR advised by your doctor is important. But yes, again, it is very difficult to distinguish between the viral fever and COVID-19 fever. You are in a pandemic. It is until and unless proven otherwise, you have got COVID. You have to consider that. So doing a test, bringing out a negative RT-PCR is going to help you to rule out COVID from your mind.
Okay. This is my 10th day after I tested positive. I have only cold. I am in home isolation. My medicine course is finished. What is the guideline for me?
So see, 10th day is good. You've not got any major symptom. Your oxygen levels are important. Another thing which is important is your formation of blood clots. You should do your D dimer levels. D dimer levels. That helps us to know whether you're prone of getting blood clots. COVID has come to us like a hit, more so because it forms clots in your blood, and you should, whether you should be on your blood thinners or no at day 10 is important. So we can consider giving you 3 to 4 weeks of blood thinners. And whether you need any steroids or not. If your oxygen levels are beyond 95, you don't need any steroids. If your oxygens are lesser than 95, dropping lower than 95, you may need steroids. So these two things I would be more careful about. Whether you need steroids. If your oxygen levels are more than 95, you don't need steroids. If they're less than 95, you will need steroids. Blood thinner. If your D dimer levels are high, you need blood thinner for 3 to 4 weeks at least. If your D dimer levels are normal, you don't need a blood thinner.
Okay. So someone's asking, COVID-19 vaccines were developed in record time. Are they safe?
So again, it's a very valid and good question. An average time for the vaccines that we are using in India, that is the TB, polio, measles, mumps, rubella, tetanus, diphtheria, these vaccines, an average of all these vaccines was 7 years. 7 years it took for an average vaccine to come out. And for us, the vaccines have come out in 8 months. It is a record time that the vaccines have been proven. There are so many vaccines which are still in phase 4 trials, but we have to remember the fatality. That's why I put the case fatality rate. We have a case fatality rate of 2%, which is too high. Suppose if you are expecting a pandemic, we are a country of almost 1.4 billion people. And if all get affected, not at the same time, but suppose if even half of our population, like the way Thanos did a quick, half the population got a quick snap and half the population got deleted. Similarly, if half the population of our country or of our world gets affected by this pandemic, the case fatality rate is 2%, which is very high. You can do your maths. If 1.4 billion people, out of which, assuming all will not get, even if half of it get, and if you consider the case fatality rate of 2%, can you imagine the number of deaths we will have? We are already having, the government is not giving us the true picture, the true numbers that we are losing every day. Because it's a pandemic which is lethal enough, that's why the vaccine has come up so fast. Presently, our aim is to keep alive, keep all the people that we are having next to us. We have to keep everyone alive. So it's difficult. Yes, as you rightly said, that it's come in the record time. Yes, but there's a purpose to release it. Always remember, FDA or the WHO or the ICMR guidelines clearly say that any injection or medicine should not cause any harm to the patient, and then only they release it. We have data within 7-8 months, and so far there is no lethal outcome with the vaccine. So, but the benefit versus we have to outweigh the benefit and the risk. Presently, the risk is less, the benefit is more. That's why we are probing everyone that please take the vaccine. So yes, your question is valid about the safety, but you cannot think, no, I may get a I may get a reaction to the vaccine, I will not take the vaccine, and then die of the virus. That is why taking the vaccine is important.
Okay. So any blood test required to do after COVID?
No. After COVID? Oh, sorry. I thought after vaccine. You're talking about after COVID or after vaccine?
After COVID, doctor.
Oh, after COVID, there is a lot of blood tests we should do. One is your D dimer, as I told, but every test should be done in the timely manner. As I said earlier, also, suppose if you got COVID positive today, you should not do a CT scan on the same day. because the CT scan on day 1 or 2 will not pick up anything. So there are time zones for each and every blood test. There are few tests which I would want earlier, like I would want to know the CBC, what is your hemoglobin, what is your WBC count, what is your neutrophil lymphocyte ratio, your CRP levels. I should do a serial titers of their CRP and D dimers. Whether suppose your CRP normal range is less than 5, your CRP is 12 on day 3, and suppose your CRP has gone up to 55 on day 12. So that means your infection is still active. That is the only information I get from CRP. Similarly, D dimer will give us information whether blood clots are there or not. SGPT will give us information whether your liver is affected because of the infection or not. Creatinine is important, whether your kidneys are functioning well or not. So there are certain battery of tests that which should be done in case of COVID. Many a times we've seen that general practitioners or local doctors are not doing any blood tests, which is a wrong practice. People are hesitant to go to a specialist or a COVID specialist like me. Because they feel that I would be advised a lot of tests, because we are seeing a lot of ill patients. We are handling the bad part of the spectrum. See, there is a spectrum of mild to severe. We are taking care of the severe part more because we manage the hospital patients more. The local doctor or the general practitioner is managing the mild part more. That's why he does not advise patients for much blood tests. So the patients land up with the general practitioners more. But this is a spectrum. You should remember, when you turn from this to this, we don't know. So that's why few blood tests should be done. Not doing any blood tests is a wrong practice. Next.
Yes, doctor. If anyone from the family member is infected from COVID, is it necessary to do the RT-PCR test of all members without any symptoms?
Very good question, and we see that lots. See, in the first wave, the infectivity rate was much lower. That is, you would have one patient in one family. Okay, a family of 5 infected person would be 1. In the second wave, it is seen that the virus was more infective. That is, the CT values were much lesser. CT value is what? So when you get a COVID report, CT value is the cycle threshold. Cycle threshold is the time it will take to replicate. Understood? So lower the CT value, people have this concept, my CT value is lower, that means I've got severe COVID. No, you don't have severe COVID. You cannot grade COVID on the basis of CT value. You can grade the way you are going to propagate infection. Yes, if you are having CT value of less than 25, you are highly infectious. You are going to give this to more and more people whom you are going to come in touch with. And that's why in the second wave, we see that entire families are getting affected. A family of 5, all 5 got affected. A family of 10, all 10 got affected. So yes, in the second wave, it is wise to do COVID test, but yes, if you are apprehensive to take the test, you may wait for 2-3 days and then take. In case of you not having any symptoms, you may avoid doing the test. But if there is no financial issue, or if you are too apprehensive, doing the test is the right way to do, is the right way to go. Testing other members who were in close contact. Suppose if your grandmother was not with you in the last 3 days and you got COVID, you don't need to do a COVID test for her. But if she's staying in the same house, your mother's been feeding you, or you have been taking care of a teenager and you got COVID infection, does that mean that the teenager has also got it? We don't know. So testing him is going to be the wise thing. But in case you want to avoid it, you want to wait for a couple of days, you can wait for, in case, just to see for symptoms. But you should have a close watch on the symptomatology. You should check their temperatures, oxygen levels regularly of others, and with a different instrument. The instrument used for the temperature used for measuring temperature of the affected patient and of the contact should be 2 different instruments.
Can we proceed with treatment basis RT-PCR report? Some people or media report claim that CT would be more appropriate. Any suggestions when we should? You've already mentioned this. I think when should they go for
CT? So CT scan should not be done before day 5 for sure. until unless you've got oxygen related issues. So what happens is you consider fever as your first day, right? You may be infected with the virus, maybe, as I said, incubation period is important. You may have got the virus maybe 7 days back. You got fever today. So considering your fever day is the first day, if on first day, if my oxygen levels are less than 93, I would do the CT scan on the first day itself. But if on the first day the oxygen levels are normal, above 95, I would wait for 5 days post this first day of fever, and then if required, I will do your CT scan. Suppose there are only two indications for doing a CT scan. One is oxygen level less than 95. Do the CT scan immediately. Second is persistence of fever, recurrent fever, and only fever. I'm telling you, smell not coming for 14 days does not make that you do CT scan every 2 days. No, fever after being on adequate treatment by a COVID consultant, your fever does not settle after 3 days, 5 days. You are 100% supposed to do a CT scan. So there are only two indications to do CT scan. One is oxygen level dropping less than 95. Second is recurrent persistence of fever.
Okay. Very well explained, doctor. What will be the probability of RT-PCR result going wrong?
Again, that is a very good question. And see, RT-PCR positive reports, as in the specificity, there is a test has a specificity and a sensitivity. Specificity is something that a test cannot be wrong. RT-PCR specificity is 80%, 80, and sensitivity is 70%. So out of 10 COVID confirmed cases, if you do COVID test for all 10, you may get positive result in 7 patients, and you may get 3 patients who had got COVID, but the test did not come positive. So any test has got a limitation, and unfortunately the RT-PCR has got around 70 to 75% specificity sensitivity average. So that is why it can give you false negative results, and it can give you a misconception that you don't have COVID, whereas the second test may give you a positive result. But yes, false positive is not there. So it can not give you a false positive report. So that is one good thing about the test, that if you don't have COVID, it will not give you COVID result positive. If you don't have COVID, you don't have COVID. So that is why negative predictive value of the test is very good. If you don't have COVID, the RT-PCR value will not come positive only. But it's the other way around. Suppose you have COVID, there are chances that your test may come negative in 25 to 30% people. So that is a limitation for this test. But again, that is the best possible choice that we have in today's era.
Okay. If this person is saying, if I'm feeling shortness of breath and there is a problem in finding a hospital bed, what should I do at that critical time?
You contact Purna and take my number and call me. That is the advice that I can give you. Because today's era, it's very difficult to get a bed. But slowly and steadily, we are coming back. Bombay is at least coming back to its normal. We've got lesser number of positive cases now, probably because of the lockdown, probably because of the cooling off of the virus in Bombay, at least slightly better results than what we were in the last week. And so in the availability of the bed and the hospitals, also we are improving slightly. Because the number of beds available have increased, the number of cases who are becoming positive are reduced, the number of people taking home management treatment is more. So yes, this is going to improve, but yes, you can always connect with me. My numbers are freely available. I'm sure Purna will help you with my number, or you can contact me on my email or my number, both which ways.
Thank you so much for that positive news, doctor.
We all
really need it, I think.
Absolutely.
Okay. What side effects should we anticipate with COVID-19 vaccine?
First 48 hours, you may have fever, body aches, severe weakness, lethargy. These four symptoms are very common. You will not get viral infection with COVID-19 vaccine. Again, I'm stating that because many people think that uh, because I took the vaccine, I got the infection. That is a wrong conception. So yes, fever you may get, but that does not mean that you pop up pills without getting fever. I told you earlier also. I took two vaccines. I never got fever. I didn't have body ache. I didn't have anything. So there are people who may get fever. That is your immune response. It varies from person to person. Fever is an immune response to something. If you got fever, that is your own body's inherent response to some outside foreign material which has been injected. So it does not mean that something which was given is wrong. No, it is your body's mechanism or a fight against something foreign put in your body. So it is normal, it's natural. Don't get worried.
Is steam beneficial for curing COVID?
Steam is an adjuvant therapy. Steam, kadha, turmeric milk, all these things are giloy. All these things can help in whatever they can. But curing COVID, as you've asked, Ashutosh, curing COVID, no. It is not the only thing that can be done. Yes, it can be used as adjuvant therapy. At the same time, we see people overdoing or misusing steam like anything. They are taking 10 sessions a day and then they keep having running nose. Yes, because you're giving steam so frequently, your mucus gets moist, the moisture in your nose increases and you'll have more of a running nose. So these things you should take care of. And yes, steam can be used in moderation, maybe 3 to 4 times a day, not more than that. And it always remember it's an adjuvant to therapy. It is not the only therapy that you should take in COVID.
Okay. I took Covishield first dose and I got infected after that. How many days after second? I did not understand. Okay, never mind. I'll skip this question. I cannot understand it. Okay, this is the question. I take Covishield first dose and I infected after first dose. After COVID infections, how many days after take second dose of Covishield?
Very good. I think this is Ajay Patil's question, right?
Yes, so, yes.
Ajay, very good question, very valid one. You took the first dose and after taking the first dose, you got infection. Now your second dose timing has come, but you don't know when to take the second dose. So again, it's a very good question. You will have to wait. You will have to wait for your second dose because you've got natural antibodies because of your infection. So you should do your IgG COVID antibodies. IgG COVID antibodies. If after 28 days of your infection getting over, so you must be quarantined for 14, 15, ideally 17 days as per the norms that BMC has given us. In the second wave, it is 17 days, not 14 days anymore. 17 days. On the 17th day, you start counting days after you finish your quarantine. You take an antibody test, that is a blood test, COVID antibody IgG levels on 28 days from your 17th day. And if the antibody titers are positive, you should still wait for your second dose. If the antibody titer is negative, only then you should take your then you should take your second dose. Suppose if after 28 days you still got antibodies in your body, you don't need to take vaccine, because what is our intention of giving you a vaccine is to create antibodies. You already have antibodies because of your natural infection. You should wait for your second dose. Let another 28 days go by and then you take another test for IgG antibodies. Suppose after second dose, that is after 56 days or after 2 months of your infection getting over, your antibody titers are negative, you take the second shot.
Okay. What are the chances of getting COVID after 2 doses of vaccination?
I've answered that in my talk. Yes, you can get COVID infection, but believe me, my father had it. I've come across so many patients who got COVID after first dose, but after second dose, very few people are getting it. and that too very mild COVID, not requiring oxygen, not requiring hospitalization, not requiring any major, therapies apart from the basic home quarantine and basic medicines. So taking 2 vaccines is a must. After second dose of the vaccine, you may not get severe infection. That is what data is showing, and that's what we are seeing in the clinical practice as well, because many of us have finished 2 doses. All the healthcare workers have finished 2 doses. We are not seeing any fatal outcomes in the doctors now. Those who have already completed 2 doses, we are not seeing any fatal outcomes now.
My nephew is 38 years. His one kidney was removed 3 years ago because of tumor. He is in good health. Should he be taking the vaccine?
Absolutely. That's it. That I've answered it. Absolutely. He should take it.
Okay. Is it okay to have vaccine for a lactating mother?
Yes, again, see, this data we don't have. Sometimes presently what we discuss in our last guidelines is that lactating mothers, if they avoid the vaccine, it's better. But pregnancy and lactating mothers should avoid a vaccine as much as possible. But suppose if they are living in an area or living in anxiety, they may take it. But I would advise to wait. If you're lactating or if you're pregnant, you should not take the vaccine.
Okay. Should we take a vitamin D tablet as a precautionary measure? If yes, then can you suggest? Also, doctor, I would also like to put in that what are the supplements that we should be taking on a regular basis?
See, vitamin C, 500 milligram twice a day or once a day is important. Vitamin C, if you don't want to take a pill or you don't want to pop a pill, take 1 lemon a day. Apart from your food lemon that you take, what lemon you squeeze in your food is separate. You have to take 1 lemon a day, one entire lemon a day. You can take it in the form of a lemon juice, like limbu pani or something like that, or you squeeze a lemon into your dal rice, extra lemon in your food. But it should be 1 lemon a day per person. Okay, that is one thing. If you don't want to pop a vitamin C 500 milligram pill, Uprise D3 or D-Rise or Tio 60,000 units once a week for 6 weeks or 8 weeks, once a week for 8 weeks, followed by once a month for life is going to be needed. You need 60,000 units for 1 month. But before you take the maintenance dose, that is monthly dose, you should fill up your stores. Your vitamin D stores in your body should be filled up. And you should take Bicosol Z or any vitamin which has zinc content in it. Zinc. So Zinconia, Zincovit, Bicosol Z, Bicozinc, any multivitamin with zinc in it. These are the 3 things: vitamin C, vitamin D, and B complex with zinc. These 3 things should be taken as a routine for all patients, or everyone who is not a patient also can take it. It's not going to harm you.
Okay. Is there any blood test required before taking a vaccine like CRP, LDL, HDL?
No. Answer is no.
Okay, I think, doctor, there's this question where I think you've already covered it. What to do for a healthy and fit life considering diet and exercise, not only during the pandemic, but otherwise as well? That
we are going to discuss as Purna has given me a heads up that we are going to have another session for preventive cardiology, preventive lipidology. When should you do your cholesterols? How should your cholesterols be? How should your body weight be? What are the chances of you getting a heart attack? All those things we are going to discuss in our next session. I'm sure Purna is going to arrange.
Yes.
And we'll be answering that. But yes, doing yoga, regular exercise, regular walks once the COVID issue is sorted is a must. Please be healthy.
Yes, thank you, doctor. Will there be any appeal from doctors to the government to increase health infrastructure?
Believe me, we are in a mess, and we are trying to tell the government. But unfortunately, what is happening is we've got too many governments. We've got the state government, we've got the central government, we've got the BMC, we've got so many things to handle, and Nobody is taking the single responsibility of the state or of the state of affair in our country. So that is the problem which we are facing. There are too many things to handle, not like US or China or UK, that there is one single body who's managing everything. Over here, there is the Shiv Sena and the BJP are at loggerheads. The BJP and the Congress are at loggerhead. So there are issues everywhere. So unfortunately, if we have some good decision taken by one government, the other government will try opposing it. Like if the central government is taking a good decision, the state government will oppose it. So we are in a sort of mess, but this is something which we can expect, but our hopes for them are very diminished. We should have a national health program or something like that, which covers everything for everyone. But unfortunately, we are too huge a population, and it's not going to be so practically possible. So it's a good suggestion, but as I told you, it's very difficult to cater such a big human population.
Okay. I think you've already mentioned this too. What are the precautions we have to take while home isolation?
Yeah, I have mentioned that. So mental health is important. Again, I should just bring it out that be positive, try to do some things which you like. As I like learning a guitar, I'm learning guitar right now. I'm a little late. I had already learned it once for almost 3 months, but I lost touch. Then I bought a guitar and I'm trying to play it right now. I'm doing online sessions. Listening to music is again important. If you like music, that is doing something which you like is very important. You should be positive, playing with your kids, playing with your grandparents. It's all these things are very important, very important.
Yeah. Is there a possibility that an infection has gone unnoticed, and if so, what is the right way to detect it? COVID, if COVID has gone unnoticed.
If sorry, how I didn't
Yeah,
get you.
I'll repeat that. Is there a possibility that an infection has gone unnoticed, and if so, what is the way to detect it?
If you have not noticed it, RT-PCR is the only way to detect it. There's no other way.
Okay.
And one more thing I should remind you, if y'all are interested in yoga online sessions, y'all can Purna does a good number of yoga sessions, and she's actively Purna, you take you do yoga sessions, right?
Yes,
So,
doctor, that's correct. So if anyone's even a beginner, they can definitely join in. We also do breathing exercises on a regular basis in our online classes. So they can definitely find us on Instagram or take our email address from the HR. It's gofigurefitnessindia@gmail.com. So they can definitely ping us, and we have online classes on Zoom happening at a regular basis.
Great,
on a regular
great.
basis. Okay. Again, what will be the probability of RT-PCR result going wrong? I think you've already mentioned this 20 to 30% sometimes.
Yeah, it can be 25 to 30% can be the issue. RT-PCR giving you a negative report despite of you being positive, that is a possibility, not the other way around, that you are not having COVID and you may get a positive report. That is not possible only with RT-PCR. If you have COVID, but you may get a negative report and you still may have symptoms, that is a possibility.
Right. After COVID recovery, when can we be vaccinated? Again, this I think you have already answered.
Yeah. 2 months on an average, 2 months. But you should do your antibody titers. COVID IgG antibody titers. Remember this. COVID IgG antibody titers. It's a blood test.
Okay. Okay. Can we go for medications like in ivermectin and doxycycline?
For COVID patient or for non-COVID purpose? Non-COVID not needed.
For pre-infection, I think.
No. You can't. You cannot have preventive or prophylactic doses for COVID. You can't. As I said, you can take multivitamins. You can take B complex with zinc, vitamin D, and vitamin C. You can take B, C, and D. That's it. Nothing else.
Okay. Recently, I tested positive for COVID. I isolated myself and took the medication as prescribed by my doctor. But I'm feeling very lazy and cough is continuously coming. So what should I do?
You were COVID. Is this Praveen's question? Praveen
Yes,
Soni?
Praveen Soni. Yes,
So
yes.
again, you should get in touch with your doc. If you've been managed completely, if you've done your CT scan, sometimes what happens, the CT scan is showing some lesions, and you may need rehabilitation for cough, or you need some spirometry or breathing exercises from your physiotherapy. That is one thing. Weakness, lethargy, laziness can be a part and parcel of post-COVID syndrome and may last for 3 to 4 weeks. So that I'm not worried. But cough, persistence of cough, you should get yourself tested with the doctor. In case if you have not done a CT scan, you should do a CT scan also.
Okay, I had a second dose this week. It was a crowded place. How do you know if the fever is related to second dose or I have contacted COVID?
You will never know. So second dose fever will settle in a day's time or to max 48 hours. If you have persistence of symptoms, you should get in touch with a doc. You should get yourself tested if required. And as I said, there's a lot of chaos at our vaccination centers right now. It is not as streamlined as it was earlier, and that's a problem. So with so many people gathering together, you may get COVID. I don't know, but you should get in touch with your doc and just see what is what.
Okay, many people use methylene blue. Is it typhoid?
Absolutely no.
Uh, After recovery from COVID, okay, all these questions are already answered. Can we take, okay, can we take both Covishield
No,
and
no, no.
okay.
You can't take both. You have to take only one. You
If
can't take
children,
first dose. You can't take first dose with Covishield and second with Covaxin. No, you should not do that. Stick to one vaccine. Try taking the same one again.
uh, if children below 10 years get COVID positive, what is the protocol to follow? Now we are giving only vitamin C and zinc supplement as per the doctor's advice.
That's perfect. Symptomatic treatment, less than 14 years of age, we don't give any medicines apart from crocin syrup for fever or cough supplements, and vitamin C and zinc as your doctors already advised. That's perfect.
Typhoid and COVID is mixing up. What is your opinion?
There is no mix up of typhoid and COVID. Both have different symptoms, both have different treatments, both have different investigations, completely different from each other. And we can't get mixed up. See your doctor. Definitely, he'll try to rule both out.
Okay. Last question, I think. How many times we should use sanitizer, as exposure of sanitizer for more time also creates other health issues? Will you elaborate about this topic?
So basically, see, sanitizer is if you're home and if you're not touching anything outside, you don't need to sanitize again and again. But if you're outside your home, you should sanitize adequately so that whenever you're touching something new, you should sanitize. So if you're home, you don't need to sanitize at all. But yes, sanitizing in things which have come from outside, your food parcels or your vegetables or your fruits or your groceries is important. Sanitizing your hands are important because you're going to touch all these things. And when you're going out, you're touching the lift door, you should sanitize. You're touching the car door, you should sanitize because you're exposed to so many things. So that is important.
Okay, doctor, I think we've come to the end of the session. Everyone's questions have been answered. If people still have any more questions, please feel free to email to your HR and they will forward it to us.
Sure.
That's about it. Thank you so much for the session, doctor. It was really very informative and we've got some really positive feedback about the session. Yeah, this was much required in these tough times and you were very encouraging and very positive about the approach. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. I hope I have answered all your questions and I have answered all your queries. Feel free to contact me. My mobile number was given earlier,
Yes.
and
Yes.
Purna has it. Your HR team also will have it. And kindly be safe. Try to be as home as possible. Uh, Hopefully, we'll tide this. We'll come victorious out of this. And
Yes.
may
Dr. Soni, one last question, which is quite a good question. When can I donate plasma after recovering from COVID?
So generally after 28 days, if your IgG levels in your blood are high, you can donate plasma. But again, plasma exchange is not got any positive feedbacks in the guidelines. Uh, Plasma it's not given to all patients. Firstly, it's given to very critical patients, and that too has not favored. There are no trials who have favored plasma donation. So again, it was a trial and error method, and so far we've not got much good results for plasma. But yes, you can donate plasma in case after 28 days of your recovery. That is, so recovery ke baad 28 days, 4 weeks. But they will do a lot of tests. They will do your blood tests. If your IgG levels for COVID antibodies are positive, only then you can give plasma. That's it.
Okay. Is it advisable to take? Okay, no, we've already answered all of these. Okay, I think. Am I more susceptible to COVID if my vitamin D levels are low? Last question.
No, Samina, no. Vitamin D is not going to cause lack of vitamin D may not cause COVID. Lack of vitamin D may cause more symptoms. You may feel more body ache if you got COVID. You may feel more weak. That's it. But it will not cause COVID because of low vitamin D.
Okay, doctor. I think we've come to the end. I am putting down the email address. If they have any more questions, they can mail us at Go Figure Fitness. So I'm just putting that down. Everyone can have a look.
Yeah. And this is my contact details. I have also shared on screen. I hope you can see the screen. That's my mobile number for any cardiac related issues. I'm an interventional cardiologist in Bombay, Pan Mumbai, and my email address in case you want to share some reports, or you can WhatsApp me on this number and we can be in touch.
Thank you so much. I think we can end the session.
Sure. It was a pleasure working with you, Poorna, and the entire fraternity, which has been actively part. We had good number of attendees, and I'm happy that I could be of help for all of those who have asked so many questions. And I hope all your queries are answered. Hopefully, we'll be victorious soon with this COVID-19 pandemic getting over as early as possible. Stay hope, stay healthy, and stay safe.
Thank you.